This video is about using the quadratic formula to solve. So remember, we're going to use the quadratic formula to find the solutions of equations. All rounding must be done to the nearest hundredth, which remember is 2 decimal places. And remember that any problem is not equal to 0, you have to solve for it first. So in this case, for number 1, we first have it equal to 0, so we can identify our a, b, and c values. So our a value is what's in front of the x squared, which is -2, which will get substituted in for the quadratic formula for a. The b value is what's in front of the x, which is -6, which will get substituted in for the b. And our c value is 8, which will get substituted in for c. So quickly, let's write down our a, b, and c values. A is -2, b is -6, and c is 8. So we're going to substitute into the quadratic formula just like we did in the video before. So we have x equals -b. So negative times the b value, which is -6, plus or minus the square root of b squared. So b squared is -6. We have -6 squared minus 4 times the a value, which is -2, times the c value, which is 8, all over 2 times the a value. So 2 times -2. So now we're going to simplify this. So first I'm going to look at, I have -6. Remember, two negatives make a positive, so we have 6 plus or minus the square root. So we're going to use the calculator. Make sure you're using your parentheses for under the square root. So I'm going to type in parentheses -6 squared minus 4 times -2 times 8. So notice that I had parentheses in my problem. I used parentheses in the calculator to get a number. So I have 100. So I'm going to do plus or minus the square root of 100. And then on the bottom, 2 times -2 is -4. Now this part looks like a problem that we did on the first day of quadratic formula. So all we're going to do to solve is we're going to split this into two parts. So we have 6 plus the square root of 100 over 4. And we have 6 minus the square root of 100 over 4 to get our two solutions for x. So in the calculator, I'm going to have 6 plus the square root of 100 divided by 4. And I get that x equals 4 for the first equation. And the second equation, I have 6 minus the square root of 100 divided by 4. And I get x equals -1. So let's try another problem. In number 2, when I identify my a value is in front of the x squared, so my a value is 1. My b value is what's in front of the x, so my b value is 5. And my c value is the number by itself, which in this case is -7. So we're going to substitute into the equation x equals -b, so negative times 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So we have 5 squared minus 4ac. So 4 times the a value times the c value, all over 2a. So 2 times 1. So now we're going to simplify. So negative times 5 becomes -5 plus or minus the square root. Remember, we're going to type this all in the calculator using our parentheses. So parenthesis 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times -7. It's important right now not to type in the square root, just the numbers underneath it. And we get 53 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So now we're going to split it apart so that we can get our two solutions. So we have -5 plus the square root of 53 over 2 and -5 minus the square root of 53 over 2. So remember, when we're trying to get our solutions, we're going to do the numerator first. So -5 plus the square root of 53 divided by 2. And we get x equals 1.14. And then we have -5 minus the square root of 53 divided by 2. X equals -6.14. So let's try two more problems. Number 3, I need to identify my a, b, and c values. So my a value is what's in front of the x squared, so in this case just positive 1. My b value is what's in front of the x, so in this case 6. And my c value is the number by itself, which is 9. So I'm going to substitute into the quadratic formula, and I get x equals negative b, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 6 squared, minus 4ac, so 4 times 1 times 9, all over 2a, so 2 times 1. So we're going to simplify. Negative 6 becomes just negative 6, plus or minus the square root. So we're going to type what's under the square root into the calculator. So parentheses 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9, which gets us 0, all over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now, notice when we have a 0, remember that we're only going to get one solution, but we're going to still split this apart. So negative 6 plus the square root of 0 over 2, negative 6 minus the square root of 0 over 2. Remember that the square root of 0 is just 0, so I only have to do one of these equations. So negative 6 plus the square root of 0, and then divide by 2. We're going to get x equals negative 3. If we want to double check, we can also do negative 6 minus the square root of 0, divide by 2, which gets us the same answer. So we really only have to do it once if it's a plus or minus the square root of 0. Let's look at one more. So number 4, our a value is what's in front of the x squared, so 6. Our b value is what's in front of the x, which is 3. And our c value is the number that's by itself, which in this case is 5. So when I go to substitute, I have x equals negative b, so negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, 3 squared, minus 4ac, so 4 times 6 times 5, all over 2a, so 2 times 6. When I go to simplify, negative times 3 is negative 3, plus or minus the square root. So I have parenthesis 3 squared minus 4 times 6 times 5 is negative 111 all over 12. Now, notice that this is a negative number under the square root. Remember that we can't take the square root of a negative number. So anytime you have the square root of a negative number in our quadratic formula, this is going to be a no real solution.